John Oliver is here. 8 years ago, he arrived in New York City for the very first time to audition for The Daily Show. 24 hours after getting the job, he was on stage with Jon Stewart as the program's senior British correspondent. A 3-month stint filling in for Stewart last summer garnered positive reviews and a flurry of offers for Oliver to strike out on his own. And now he has. Last week tonight debuted in April on HBO, and here's what it looks like.
A couple of weeks ago, we did a piece about net neutrality. And there was a moment in it where we pointed out that Tom Wheeler, the chair of the FCC, which is tasked with regulating cable companies, was previously a lobbyist for the cable industry. Something of a conflict of interest that we summarised thusly. That is the equivalent of needing a babysitter and hiring a dingo. Sure, it's a little offensive to Australia's favourite baby-eating animal, but needs must for the joke. And look, you're probably wondering why I'm playing it again now. Well, on Friday, the FCC held an open meeting, and this happened.
I'm just wondering if you watched the John Oliver segment about net neutrality and what you thought about it.
Oh, that is not good. So, what did he think?
I think that it represents the high level of interest that exists in the topic in the country, and that's good. I would like to state for the record that I'm not a dingo.
Last Week Tonight airs Sunday nights at 11 p.m. on HBO. I'm pleased to have John Oliver back at this table. Welcome.
Thank you for having me back. Thanks, Charlie.
I know Tom Wheeler, by the way.
Yeah.
I've known him for 30 years. And what are you saying? He's corruptible? Is that what you're saying?
No, all I'm pointing out, Charlie, is that the former head of a cable lobbying group might not be the ideal objective head of the FCC. Oh. It's more a suggestion that maybe those two worlds...
Well, maybe he needed experience. You get experience by lobbying for the cable companies. Therefore, you understand them.
I know exactly.
And once you understand them, you can regulate them.
I take it
Once
back.
they have paid you to represent them, then you have a capacity to regulate them.
There's no conflict of interest. You think, I know exactly who I want in there, because it'll be someone that doesn't fight me all the time. I can be that person.
Yes, but he was so nice and gentle in his response.
He was.
When you accused him of these egregious acts.
Nice and gentle. I didn't accuse him of egregious acts. I accused him of resembling a baby-eating dingo.
That's different.
That's just a dingo doing what a dingo does. Okay, so that's my point.
Help me understand this. You substituted for Jon Stewart.
Yep.
Did that. Then you came on this show.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, and had a sterling performance, not unlike your 3 months of sitting in for John. Right after that, you got a big offer from HBO. I'm just asking. I'm asking.
Yeah.
Sitting in for Jon Stewart, appearing on my show, a big new show for you.
Yeah.
I'm asking.
There's just a gateway. What you're saying is... oh, no, what you're saying is you'd like a piece on the back end.
Indeed. That's what I'm saying.
That's what I thought. Just give me a taste.
I just saw 10.
Give me a little...
Just
10, but double figures. No, it was weird, because I remember sitting down with you. It was the final week of hosting over the summer.
Yes.
I remember you saying... Do you think, is your life going to change now?
Yeah.
And I said no. And you looked at me like I was insane.
I did.
And there was something about your face just going, yeah, oh, this kid doesn't know.
He doesn't
this
know.
Idiot doesn't know.
He doesn't get it.
Yeah, so it was,
he doesn't
that
even
was
know how good he is, by the way.
The jury is still very much out on that, Charlie, as you well know. That is a fierce deliberation going on in that jury of whether I'm any good or not.
Oh, come on. You're universally acclaimed as a brilliant comedian.
Universally? Wow. You are writing checks that my popularity cannot cash, Charlie. I am an acquired taste at best.
So tell me about this experience of creating your own show. Here you are, you go over there with this phenomenal background as a highly acclaimed comedian who is substituted for the one and only Jon Stewart.
Yeah, right.
And that's high praise. And to be given the opportunity and then to do it so well.
Well, yeah, that was, that was kind of the apex of my time at The Daily Show, was kind of being in a position where John would trust me, rightly or wrongly, with kind of being the custodian of his show for a few months. Now, and it was an amazing honour.
Now, did you think for a moment, if I do this well, like on day 1, day 2, day 3, if I do this well, at the end of 3 months, little John Oliver will have his own show.
No, I didn't think that for a single moment, as you could tell from my face during our interview.
Yes.
When we're one day from the end and you're saying, so what next? And we go, I'm going to go back. Everything's going to go back to how it was. So, no, there was no point at which I thought it was going to lead to anything other than, hopefully, not being in trouble when John got back.
So how do you like it, doing your own show?
I love it.
Being
I mean,
in charge and responsible for lots of comedy.
Yeah, that is, you know, it's a different level, because I've been under his wing, under John's protective wing, so that, you know...
And if it went bad, he could go to someone else.
Of course, that's right. Or he would, you know, can take the blows for me.
Yes.
So, no, I've had this wonderful position for nearly a decade where I've been, like, snuggled up under his wing.
And now you're exposed. There's no John to protect you.
Now, yes, right. And now there are times when I would love to look up and see that wing above me. Yeah, but he's it's been very. Being a boss has been very different. Setting stuff up myself has been a challenge. There are kind of basic management skills that do not come naturally to me.
You hire people for that.
Well, that's what I've learned. Yeah. That's right. That's your answer to every question, though, isn't it, John? You hire people for that.
Exactly. Don't worry.
You very much have a Caesar view of career. Oh, you should not be dirtying your hands with that.
No, just don't worry about it. You know.
Yeah. But
you're there for one thing.
I worry about everything.
You're there for one thing: to entertain us and to make us laugh. That's all.
Right. I don't see it that way, because I've been raised in you know, the Daily Show model, which is where, you know, John is involved in everything.
Detail.
He is the DNA of that show.
Right.
Which is why over the summer it's so weird to remove the DNA from a show.
I have a theory about this. You want to hear it?
Sure. I'm not going to say yes yet. I'll say sure.
Okay. Every great television show, you know, it comes because it is defined by the presence of someone.
Right.
Like Johnny Carson defined The Tonight Show. Ted Koppel defined Nightline when he created this show and other shows. Certainly Stewart and Colbert. I mean, there's a drive, and every one of them is maniacal.
Yeah.
About the show.
Of course.
And they give it its driving vision.
Well, he's one of the big things.
David Letterman was the same way.
For sure. One of the big things that John said that rattles around my head all the time is saying, you know, if you take your foot off the throat of this show, it will get up and walk away.
That's exactly
right. And he is 100% right about that. Yeah. And that has been transferable to what I'm doing now. You have to be on it all the time. Otherwise, you'll look away, look back, and what you needed has gone.
Yeah. And you have to walk away every day saying, that was good, but I got to make it better tomorrow.
Of course. You can't be happy. That is, you know, which is why
you can't be happy.
You can't be happy. That's why being a comedian has been so perfect fit for me, because, you know,
you can't be
happy. There's no comedian walking away from a gig going, I feel fully satisfied by that experience.
You don't.
You're just saying that it didn't fill the hole. It didn't fill the hole.
So what's the hardest part about this program for you?
Well, I don't know. It's all hard at the moment because we haven't really done enough to be in any kind of rhythm. You know, we've done 7 shows, so we're still working out the process and even the show itself.
How would you define what you want the show to be?
I don't know. On a week-to-week basis, it's changing. I think we're gravitating towards attacking things that are difficult. You know, going after something that it kind of merits a week's worth of struggle. You know, things like we've done things on FIFA or the death penalty or net neutrality. No, none of those things scream, that sounds funny. So when you look at them, no one's looking at net neutrality and thinking, that is begging for comic treatment.
You seem to have, to me, and I've known you a couple of years, a huge curiosity in the news.
Yeah.
I mean, you come to that with, wow, can you believe this?
Right.
And you see the contradictions in it. So you see the place where I can get in here and make it.
Right, but it's a different
irony of it.
Right, that's exactly it. That's it in a nutshell, because you're looking for comedic ironies, comedic juxtapositions. And so in something like what we did with net neutrality, there's an inherently comedic element of a kind of stupid call to arms, because you're dealing with something which is incredibly important and incredibly boring and affects some of the most driven people in the world, online commenters. So you kind of, there is an inherent juxtaposition between the fact that no one cares about this, and yet the people who should care the most about it are some of the most poisonous active online individuals.
Does it make any difference you're on HBO and therefore you can say whatever you want to say?
Well, it's been amazing. Yeah, it's made
You don't have to bleep it.
You don't have to bleep it. It's not even to bleep it, sure. You don't have to... and look, it's a curse word is, you know, a violin upon which you can play any tune.
Yes.
But also, just in terms of content, you know, be able to do a long piece about the death penalty or about FIFA is amazing. Because there's no restrictions. They'll just let you do anything.
Like FIFA just begs to be satire, doesn't it? To be made.
Yeah, because it's basically ancient Rome in a current sports organisation.
And that's what you got to find.
Yeah, and
ancient
you're talking
Rome
about,
as a comparison.
Right, and you're looking at Caligula.
Yes, you are.
Look, we're not talking about functional Rome. We're talking about the guy appointing horses senators. That's what you're dealing with FIFA. Yes. So yeah, the whole thing is a mess. It's like a circus.
All right, take a look at this clip. I want you to see this clip. Here it is.
I would like to talk to you about the sausage principle. The theory that says if you love something, never find out how it was made. Well, tonight, I would like to show you my sausage. Wait. This is my sausage.
The 2014 FIFA World Cup.
Oh, my God! OK, the World Cup starts this week, and I am both excited and extremely conflicted about it. Now, I know, in America, soccer is something you pick your 10-year-old daughter up from. But for me and everyone else on Earth, it's a little more important.
Soccer had become Brazil's religion. In Colombia, soccer was a religion.
Football is a religion here.
Soccer, or football, like we say, it's a religion.
Yeah, and they're not exaggerating. When David Beckham got a tattoo of Jesus, the response of most soccer fans was, "Oh, that's huge for Jesus. That's a big deal for him." Here's my conflict. The World Cup is one of my favourite things, but it's organised by these guys, FIFA. You either know it as the Fédération Internationale de Football Association, or that soccer video game you have. But for American viewers who may never have encountered them, FIFA is a comically grotesque organisation. In fact, telling someone about the inner workings of FIFA for the first time is a bit like showing someone Two Girls, One Cup. You do it mainly so you can watch the horrified expression on people's faces.
I think that was lovely, but sausage is such a cheap shot.
Sure.
Look at my sausage.
Yeah, look at my sausage. But you're chumming the water for what's coming, Charlie.
You're just shaking it up.
That's right,
so they'll know when you get there.
Exactly, there's a little red meat, just to get everyone's attention.
And David Beckham makes Jesus look good.
He does.
Yeah.
You know, David Beckham is, you know, in many ways a religious figure. I met him once, and I felt like I'd met God in a way.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah, and I probably dealt with it even worse than if I met the living Christ.
I've never had the pleasure.
Oh. He is perfect.
Is he really?
Yeah, I mean, his Achilles heel...
He looks perfect.
He is marble. He looks like a Greek
like
statue.
A statue of God.
Perfect.
A god.
The problem is he has a voice that looks like he's inhaled helium. That's the one thing. You can't have him speak.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I swear to you. Like you'll say, David, great to meet you. Oh, lovely to meet you. Lovely to meet you, Charlie.
No.
And you just go,
I'll be so
David,
disappointed.
David, do close your mouth and just look askance for me.
Just give him a profile.
Like this? No, not like that, David. Without your mouth moving.
No,
yeah, I'm telling you. It's awful.
Other than comedy,
yes,
what do you want your show to be?
Basically nothing other than it's a comedy show.
Okay.
So it has to be that.
Okay.
If it's not
we're
that,
accepting that.
Yeah.
We want to go one step beyond comedy. What else?
If it's interesting, that's fun as well. If it's comedy about some interesting things.
How about an insight into something and a way of looking at it that you hadn't thought about?
Sure. Why not?
Like the idea of hiring the guy who formerly represented the cable company.
Right.
You know.
Right. Because there are, and like you were saying, there are inherent comic juxtapositions throughout that story.
Yeah.
So you want to highlight those with comedy, especially with a story like that, which is boring. That is the most important story at the moment, which is too boring to care about.
What's the biggest story for you? I mean, think about the week that we're in. We got the World Cup, you've got the war in Iraq.
We did a big... Our first show, we did the Indian election. Basically, the most of the show was just... there was nothing not interesting about the Indian election to me. The biggest...
There was nothing...
Nothing not interesting.
Because it's the largest democracy in the world, and they're electing...
It's the biggest expression of democracy in the history of Earth. If that's not interesting, nothing is ever interesting.
If you can't find something interesting in the largest democracy in the history of the world...
Yeah, then you have your eyes closed.
And you're in the wrong place.
Yeah, that election was astonishing. Yeah. And you know, in a country that is, you know, riddled with class.
Yes.
You have Narendra Modi, a deeply controversial figure, who used to sell tea at a railway station. There's nothing that was not amazing about that election to me, and it was covered so spectacularly over there. That's when you realise that our cable news has become an airborne disease and has made it to India.
Yes, it's true. Now, you had General Alexander on your show, too.
Yeah.
I mean, he's the guy who ran NSA.
The NSA. He ran the NSA during its most, let's say, fervent period. Yeah.
Yeah. When they were most active around the world.
When they were certainly most... That's right. When they were defending us most rigorously, yes. He would say. Yeah.
And you could say, by the way, you probably don't know that I'm... And they could say, oh, we know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
You probably don't know that I'm a Brit. They say, oh, no, we know. You didn't know that my mother's sister worked.
Before I emailed the questions to our producer, and there was a moment... When I was filling in the subject line, I'd written General Alexander questions, and there was a moment I caught myself going, should I do that? Should I call this something else, like, you know, like menu for tomorrow? Yes. It's weird how it plays with your mind.
Yeah. Interviewing skills. I mean, is that one of the things that you've had to develop? First with John and then with this show?
Yeah, in two speeds, I think, because I think there's two different... Like, I interviewed... just on this week's show, we had Stephen Hawking as a guest.
Oh, I saw that.
Yeah.
Tell me all about it, because I've done the same thing.
Yeah.
So I can't wait to compare notes.
Yeah, so I really wanted to speak to him for, like, a multitude of reasons. One, because, he's a fascinating guy. He's very funny. Right. He has a great sense of humour, and he is obviously wrongly defined by his disability. Right. And it is the least interesting part of him as a man. Yes. I hate the idea that most people, when they think of him, will think, oh, that guy in the chair with the
big
electronic voice. Yeah, and that's not right. There is a personality in there. There's not much left of his body.
But here's the difficulty, and when you go see him, and I did this 4 or 5 years ago, went out to Cambridge, you have to submit the questions because he needs time.
It's got... Right, and it's actually got even worse over the last few years, because he has really slowed down. His physical limitations are... worse than ever.
So how did you meet the challenge of interviewing Stephen Hawking?
We emailed back and forth and emailed like some of the bigger questions that would take a more involved response, and then I'd said in asking him to do the interview, I would like this to be funny. I know that, you know, you've got a good sense of humour, so then I might ask you this on the back of it. That's a dumb question, then you can get me. Right. And so then he would come up with a slam. So, and that was really fun to watch, because he's not...
But you know, you have him then. He's engaged in the game, if he'll do that.
Yeah, and the difficult thing in approaching that in a comedic context, that interview, is that his face is not very expressive anymore. There's not much. He really only has one working muscle there now. Yeah. So I was concerned about showing that he was involved in and having fun in the game. And there was one moment when I knew he was about to get me, where I swear you could see his face light up because he knew he had a zinger ready and was going to drop it on me. And it was awesome. It was just awesome.
You could see it, though.
You could see it. You can see because you can.
And he was ready to.
Yeah, he was ready. He knew exactly.
Push a button and it's there.
Right, except not even. That's the amazing thing, because long gone are the days where he's pushing anything.
I know.
So it's just
somebody. You know.
But yeah, but he can just blink. No, right, so that's where he's triggering it with a blink, and he knew, and he got me, and he knew he got me, and his face lit up.
Why
and it was
he so interesting for you?
Because I think I'm not. I don't know, like most people, I don't know
you didn't study physics.
For sure. To the point that I knew, even at one point, I was in his office and I was quite close to the blackboard, and shoulder brushed it, and they did run over going, whoa, 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 whoa.
Yeah. You just rubbed off the theory of the world.
Exactly, and you see, it looks like scribble. Look, I'll put it back. But I wanted to get at the fact that there is a human being in there whose mind is incredibly agile, who has a personality that's not just about his work, and it's hard to get at because there's not much physically left. But I wanted to try and show the man inside this, incredibly difficult situation, and because he's funny, and I wanted him to be funny, and he was, I think.
One of the great things about having a show like you do, like I do, it is you can get up in the morning and say, who do I want to meet and how do I want to find it? Now, do you have anybody, one of the reasons I like you so much is that there's a curiosity about the world around you. I mean, beyond, can I find humor in this? It is, this is sort of the world I live in, and I'm interested in the world I live in. And then, do you then have to take it to the next step and say, but can I make it funny? Can I find the irony in it? Can I find...
Yes, exactly. Because there's places where you go naturally going, this person is incredibly fascinating, but to what extent can you apply humour to that in a way to make it, to make it interesting in a different way? Because you don't want, you don't want to be too abrasive sometimes. There are places where irony is difficult. Even talking to Stephen Hawking, you're worried that can come across as bullying unless you control it.
Or patronising or whatever.
For sure, and you don't want to... He is... people infantilise him all the time. And he's smarter than almost everyone. So there's no need to do that. You want to show that he can stick up for himself. And, in other interviews, there's definitely times where you need to work out where irony is useful and where it can be a problem. It was hard. I did a piece about UNESCO in Gabon. And it was this was for the Daily Show, and I was worried about how irony would work in a classroom that was about to get shut down, full of kids in West Africa. You worry about whether irony in that room will work. You know that it will afterwards in the edit for the function of the piece. As it happened, it was fine, but that would be an example of a time where you worry, oh, I'm not sure. We need to be careful here.
Now, suppose you had a brilliant idea and you didn't want to put it on your show for whatever reason. Would you pick up the phone and call John and say, man, do I have an idea? I'm coming back over to do something, or do contracts and how little I understand about the way the world works.
I don't know.
Prevent that.
I don't know. Probably we could do that. Yeah. I mean, he's been amazing.
Or you could have him on your show at some point if you wanted to.
I speak to him at least on email, probably once a week, and just to ask him about stuff.
But you said that you live with the idea, I don't want to disappoint John.
Yeah, still he's still my high watermark. So I don't want to let him down. I didn't want to let him down when I was sitting in his job for him, but I still don't want to let him down now. He's still the benchmark for me.
Why did you become a comedian?
Because I had no place else to go, Charlie.
Is that right?
Pretty much.
No, it's not.
It's pretty
When
close
did you
to
know
the truth.
This is what...
It was when I realised... I think there was... I wanted, as a kid, I wanted to be a footballer. I wanted to be like David Beckham in every way.
In every way,
yes. None of that worked out. That's right. My voice is too low. We know that now.
Exactly.
But, then I loved comedy.
Yes.
And I started doing it at college, and I loved doing it so much that I realised I was going to have to give it a go. And then I kind of started, struggled, and I was a few years in, and...
This is post-college.
This is post-college. I was a few years into doing it barely professionally, sustaining myself, but not a dignified life. So it still counts.
Okay, so what's an example of sustaining myself but not a dignified life?
That you can't afford orange juice with pulp in it.
Just have
that used to be that's still my...
orange juice in a can?
No, like squash, English, like concentrate with water on top.
Oh, yes,
still, my barometer of success
low.
is still whether you can have... Yeah, it's not that low. That's not that low, Charlie. Oh, my God. You've been too successful for too long, Charlie. That low. Are you living like an animal?
You were saying that. No.
There was... And so I'd done that for years. And I remember my dad saying to me, oh, I really admire that you never gave up. And it never even occurred to me to give up. I didn't even occur that was an option. And it was chilling to me. Because I remember going upstairs and thinking, hold on, should I have given up? Yes. And then I realised, it's too late now. Yes. I have no transferable skills. Right. If this doesn't work, it's a disaster. So it was of his conversation of going, I really admire that you've stuck with this. And I'm glad that no one pointed that out earlier.
The other side of that is that people, they stick it out and they never think about not doing anything else, and they believe that somehow, some way, you know, but they can't quite figure out what way, but they believe it. And then once they've done it and they look back and they say, oh my God, I would never do that again, though. I would never do that again. Yeah. If I'd known it was that hard, I wouldn't have done it. But when you're doing it, you don't think about that.
Right, and there is, and especially with stand-up, John and I have talked about this a bunch, that it's almost self-selecting, because it's so miserable when you're starting off as a stand-up. Yeah. You're being routinely humiliated. Right. You're going to places you are not required, certainly not enjoyed.
And not welcome.
It destroys personal relationships. Yeah. You can't afford orange juice with pulp in it. Yes. There's no upside other than the fact that you have to do it. And so if there's any reason to quit, you will find it. So it kind of self-selects people that are just so drawn to it that they will go through whatever.
So people who are not going to make it will find a way not to make it.
Yeah, I think so.
Will find a way to accept not making it.
Yeah.
And you just never thought about it.
And because you still want to go back. There was an amazing episode of Louis from the first season.
Oh, God, I love him.
And there was this thing I found really moving. There's this one episode where he gets the night off and he gets a babysitter and he tries to go out with some friends and it just doesn't work. It doesn't work at all, and he's not happy and he doesn't feel like he fits in. And so he walks home and he walks past a terrible comedy, like basement dive comedy club, and he says to the guy at the front, who's in? They went, oh, it's like 6 tourists, you know, a couple of Lithuanians. And he says, can I get up? And he goes on stage, and for the first time in the episode, he looks happy in this mess. He's bombing. Yeah. He's not doing well, but he's really enjoying himself. And then he goes home and he gets his daughters up and he takes them out for like an early breakfast in a diner. And that, to me, that hits home so hard, because those are I'm normally the most comfortable in some of the most disgusting places. I remember my wife's parents coming to see me once in a stage, like at this grimy stand-up club, and they were kind of saying. They were mentioning...
This is a very American family, too.
Yeah, yeah, and they were just... It was just... I think they were just thinking, why do you... This doesn't seem nice. It doesn't smell nice. Like the carpet sticking to your feet.
Why are you doing this?
Because this is where I'm happiest.
It's true.
And then you can feel that sense of, and you're going to bring our daughter into this world?
That's not what we intended for her at all. We didn't want her even hanging out here.
That's right. This just seems awful. I feel unclean. Like the grease of onion rings in the air.
And when did you know you had sort of had some degree of success so that it had all paid off? Notice I'm not saying you had made it. I'm just saying you had a degree of success.
No, that's a good way of putting it. And I think there might be a single moment, actually, because I think there's this guy, Armando Iannucci, who I really love him.
Right.
And he employed me to write on this show during a by-election in England. And I made him laugh. And he was quite a defining figure during my childhood, all the comedy that he'd made. And I remember thinking, and it was a proper laugh, not like a kind of friendly, he really laughed hard. And I remember thinking, I think I'm good now. I think this feels like the house's money from now on. Because there was a legitimacy in thinking, oh, so I wasn't crazy to want to do this. He found something I said funny. So at this point on, I can't really complain about anything.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so that was probably the point where I thought, I'm okay now.
And then how did you get hired by The Daily Show?
They were looking for someone, because they were about to lose...
A senior British correspondent.
Well, that's right. Well, they were about to lose a couple of correspondents to other jobs. Ed Helms was going to The Office, and Rob Corddry was leaving for a sitcom.
Right.
And so they needed someone, and they just threw the net a little bit wider. And I think Ricky Gervais had... I didn't know him, but I think he had
said recommended you, even though you did not know him?
Yeah, I think he knew the kind of things that I was writing in England, and so I think he'd said to John, you should take a look at this guy, and then it happened very fast.
Yeah. I mean, there is within the club of comedians a sense of who's doing what well and who's beginning to hit it and who has developed a kind of...
Yeah, one of the most exciting things is seeing comedians you've not seen before doing something great. Yeah. Like, it's, you know, calling around to go, actually, there's this guy, he's started, I'm not sure if I think he has just started on The Daily Show, but I remember seeing him very early, Michael Che.
Oh, yes.
He's really good.
Yeah.
He's a really good stand-up. I remember seeing him a few years ago doing stand-up, and it was that feeling of going, oh, wow, you are going to be great.
Yeah, you can see it.
Yeah.
Much success to you.
Thanks, Charlie.
It's great to have you on this program.
It's always good to see you.
I hope you will come back.
Whenever.
Thank you.
Thank
John
you.
Oliver, thank you for joining us. See you next time.